well, I beg to differ. A lot of the things that we've come to know about our nation's secrecy, such as the notorious MK-Ultra program, the mind control program that the CIA did. We only learned about that by a roll of the dice, a mere accident of fate. Back in the 70s, after CIA Director Richard Helms was fired by Richard Nixon, he knew all the secrets, and he told the manager of this program, burn the documents, destroy them all. They nearly did, but they didn't quite succeed. And as a result of that, a researcher named John Marks found some financial documents that led to MK-Ultra. That's the only reason we know about it. If it hadn't been for that, to this day we would have nothing but rumor. Maybe they did mind control. Well, we have no proof. Well, now we know. And they did some horrific Frankenstein-type experiments on human beings that to this day really have not gotten the kind of public attention they deserve. Back to our topic. More leaks in the 1970s and 80s. Barry Goldwater famously, this man ran for president, and yet he, distinguished Republican, pro-military, Air Force, a general in the Air Force Reserve, close friends with General Curtis LeMay, an Air Force legend, nevertheless, several times was denied access and cussed out by LeMay on one occasion when he asked us to get information on the infamous room at Wright-Patterson where the bodies were said to be stored. Goldwater talked about this on more than one occasion. He writes in this particular letter in the early 80s, it is just impossible to get anything on it. Now, if Barry Goldwater can't get anything on it, what does that say about the rest of our elected representatives? The story continues through the 90s. This will be in my next book. A lot of the initiatives don't stop. During the early Clinton years, Lawrence Rockefeller, who was a campaign contributor to Bill Clinton, with an interest in this, he tried to actually get a study done on this. That failed. The Roswell case kept continuing to get some traction. It kind of died in the Air Force, just as they had done under the Condon report. Took the initiative, and they came out with their report about these crash test dummies and the mogul balloon. And as I look at these explanations, I look at them as absolute garbage. An idiot might believe them. If you actually read the big fat report, which is almost 90% padding, you realize that there's just nothing there. There's nothing there. But again, I'm convinced that they don't even care. They know, frankly. All they have to do, all right, because people don't read things. They fake their way through life, pretending to read all kinds of things they don't read. The media has no interest in investigating this, apparently. And so if you issue this big fat report, they got away with it. There were efforts by a researcher named Stephen Greer in the 90s a couple of times. He met with the CIA director at the time, James Woolsey. Very interesting meeting. Met with the Director of Intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Thomas Wilson, in 1997. I spoke with Admiral Wilson a couple of years ago to confirm this meeting, and it did happen. According to astronaut Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon, who was also there, and who I've spoken with on many occasions, Wilson said, indeed, that he was going to look into the claims that there was a deeply, deeply black budget program charged with studying alien technology and bodies. Certainly Edgar Mitchell has talked about this on a number of occasions and has said that he's had a number of elite connections who have said exactly this to him. Now, when you're a guy who walks on the moon, who's not going to want to be your friend, he can have his pick of the litter, and a number of elite people have described this to him, he said. And this is Edgar Mitchell here. His statement, this is over a decade ago. He says, we are looking at likely reverse engineer technology in the hands of humans that are not under government control or any type of high-level control. In other words, maybe a rogue organization. This has become my own opinion. I'll gladly elaborate on that. In our own decade, more of these efforts to basically break through the media. I certainly am aware that there are various behind-the-scenes efforts quietly to end this. I was told by one gentleman, who's very high-level, very, very, very high-level CIA, who said to me, point blank, he said, look, this comes up every 5 years or so. It's discussed at elite levels. We think about it. We decide, well, what are we going to do about it? Do we tell the public or not? And every time they decide, nah, not this time. The official word to this day, if you were to write to the Air Force about UFOs, they'd give you this letter. It's basically the same old. Yeah, we looked into it during the 20-year period under Project Blue Book. We didn't find anything worth reporting on, and we're done. We're out of there. So why all the secrecy? Let me make sure I don't run over. I really want... We're 8:21. Let's see, I started at 7:30, so I need to be done in about... Oh, golly. 10 minutes? How much time do I have?
About 5 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Leah. Well, we'll get it done. Let me just talk here for you, okay? This is my opinion on this. If the president were to come to you today and say, it has come to my attention that the UFO phenomenon is real and is apparently of alien origin. Let's just pretend, okay, Barack Obama says this. So, well, what is the next thing that he says? Good night, I'm going on vacation. I'm sure you'd love to say that. Unfortunately, there'd be some uncomfortable follow-up questions that might be asked. Like, wait, Mr. President. How have you guys managed to keep this secret all these years? Well, that would certainly open up a can of worms, getting into the structured secrecy, the manipulation of mainstream media, the manipulation of the academic community. You bet. The manipulation of the political structure to keep this secret. How do you pay for this program if you're actually studying alien technology, which I think is the case? Well, that costs money. So then you got to have a budget structure that doesn't end run around formal congressional appropriations. That ain't fun to talk about. Okay, in other words, I guess what I would suggest is that this topic has become, I'm going to jump ahead to the very end. There's a nice little graphic, the burning of the Constitution, discussing the illegal nature of the secrecy. What about abductions, sir? Does that mean that this is actually happening? That's not an easy thing to talk about, because if you admit that the topic is real, now you have to consider the possibility that some of these people who claim that they've been abducted, hey, guess what? Maybe that's not so crazy after all. Okay? A lot of political problems. I mentioned Gorbachev before. How do you undo a lie that's gone on for an entire lifetime and safely navigate through those political waters? There will be change that comes. Why? Here's why. This was our world a century ago. Okay? This is our world today. In 1 century, this is an artificially intelligent android on the far end there. We've gone not at a linear rate, we're going exponentially. We have to assume we're not going to stop at where the level we're at. We're moving to a world of, artificially intelligent machines. Read Ray Kurzweil for a little while. Talk about the future of AI, sentient AI, the future of nanotech, the future of quantum computing. I don't even get what that is, but I do know that quantum computing is supposed to be to our computing what our computing is to the Gutenberg printing press. A revolution, a massive qualitative jump. And this is all going to be within the lifetimes of most of us who are here. So what will that mean for our society? Well, I think I can safely guess that it means that we are reinventing ourselves as a civilization and as a species. And we're about, if we've been observed by these other intelligences, which let's postulate that,